You're listening to Prosperity Report, Love and Money Podcast, the relationship podcast that helps you feel more confident financially and romantically. We do this by giving you actionable ideas to help you stop comparing and start repairing your mindset, your money, your relationship, and your life. I'm your host, Kanae Corder, best-selling author, international speaker, hypnotherapist, and financial therapist. Let's grow with the flow together. Enjoy the show. Before we get into today's show, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you want to feel more confident personally and financially? Then take my free masterclass, A Wealth of Confidence. You'll learn to reduce stress and increase wealth with confidence. You'll get a great understanding of your idea of prosperity. You'll learn your money mentality or your money personality. And that way you can reduce the stress in your life. You can increase the wealth in your life because you're going to get actionable tools and resources that you can start using immediately to transform your life. So take my free masterclass, A Wealth of Confidence. Go to KanaeCorder.com/wealth. That's KanaeCorder.com/wealth and get a wealth of confidence. Reduce stress and increase wealth in your life so you can reach your idea of prosperity. So now let's get into today's show. Welcome. We are going to have fun today talking about the brain, body, and your relationship with hope. Have you ever had anxiety so bad that it kept you from living your life? Have you ever been told you have ADHD? What about your sleep patterns? Are they suffering? Let's talk about weight gain. Has that gotten so bad that you've just lost hope? Well, I am here to tell you that there is a way to overcome all of these challenges if you just have hope and healing. And that is what we are going to talk to Dr. Stephanie Rimka about today. Dr. Stephanie Rimka is a chiropractor certified in neurofeedback. She gives hope and healing to patients through her 100% virtual holistic functioning health coaching service called Brain and Body Solutions, providing real answers to your physical and mental struggles. I am so excited about this conversation today. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Stephanie. Hey, Dr. Stephanie.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time out to come on the Prosperity Report. So what's your idea of prosperity?
So prosperity for me, the abundance is the word I would usually use. I don't usually use the word prosperity. So I consider it a mindset of abundance. And for me, that's an abundance of time, freedom, energy, health, wealth. It's energy, an abundance of energy and an abundance of impact. So personally value freedom probably over everything. I am an Aquarian, if anybody's into all that stuff. I'm a little bit, don't tie me down. I like to do my own thing. I've had my own businesses for 20 something years. I don't work for people, right? Don't tell me what to do, kind of a thing. So I value that over money or anything else, right? Now, as I've gotten older, I understand that it's all just energy, and I want an abundance of physical health energy. I want abundance of time. I want an abundance of feeling of freedom. And I know you didn't ask this question, but how I would define success is just the ability to get what you want. Because what everybody wants is totally different. So how I define success in my practice for my patients, I'm like, my job is to make you successful. Success is you having whatever it is you want.
I'm really excited about the conversation we're going to have. I'll let the listeners in on a little backstory. We met years ago, and I guess it's been about 3 or so. We kept in touch with each other virtually. And so we've admired each other's work over the years and always to sort of comment on each other's posts. We realized we had a very similar message and just got really passionate about talking about it. So it's let's do this on the podcast.
Excited. I love that I'm having this money financial expert, which is how I think of you, right? Somebody that first was doing that and merging that with relationships and the psyche, I thought was a brilliant approach that you had, that it was a gaping hole for people I thought they needed that support, right? And then now you've branched out into so much more with the prosperity and abundance concept in all relationships. I think it's
Yes.
a journey to watch. So I'm glad to be a part of it here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here because what I will say about Dr. Stephanie is she is this incredible mix of like nerdy and fun and beauty and cool and like, so we're going to have a lot of fun. It's not usually
Yes.
I either get like all nerd or I get like all cool girl, so it's cool to
Yeah.
have somebody who's like me, like a mix of nerd and cool.
Yes. I do surprise people. I think they don't know what to expect. I know these are listeners, they can't see what I look like. I think which in of itself is often confusing because nobody even knows what I am. They're like, what is happening there?
That's a good point.
And then I talk and they're really confused. And then they'll, because it is odd. Some people would think I'm attractive. I've been paid to model, so I guess I have evidence that I am. And then I am very intelligent, so I can talk a lot of nerdy things. I love physics and quantum physics and quantum biology in particular. I would say I'm really a quantum healer. I work on quantum biology to help people, but most people, I can't really lead the conversation with that because they don't know what that means. And I like pop culture, trendy things, but I love Star Trek. Guys who hear, they're like, "You're a Trekkie?" I'm like, "I'm so into it." They're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." I think it's just the way I grew up, how I grew up with the racial mixture background and the financial mixture background. I had to figure out how to blend into any room to keep safe, ultimately, is what it came down to. So, that's a great asset, but that can also be a great hindrance eventually. You might not exactly know who you really are, what you really want, since you're always fitting yourself into someone else's peg to fit what makes them feel safe and what makes so whatever you think I'm supposed to be, good for you. But I'm going to show up as me. And I think I see that's what you're doing more. I think that's what women in general are doing more. Women of color in particular are at a disadvantage trying to figure that out. Like, it's a very interesting thing that's going on. Everyone's like, who am I really? Where do I really fit in the context of everything? And maybe that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but that's where I went with it.
Yeah. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, I don't care because this is so good because yes, we're having this conversation during Mental Health Awareness Month. Be who you are is a big part of your mental stability. When you can't be yourself, like lack of self expression leads to depression. Now I made that up. I don't have evidence and research to back that up, but that is usually what happens when you cannot be yourself. And this really does connect to hope because you can lose hope when you haven't been able to be yourself, that it's even possible to be loved or liked or accepted because you don't even know what that looks like.
Certainly. I mean, certainly just humans in general, one of the first things we need is safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so if your personal expression of who you feel you are at your core, you aren't safe, well, then how can you ever really be your greatest, brightest self, right? There's a lot of reasons why someone may not feel safe expressing who they are, far outside of simple things like they like things that other people don't like in their group, right?
Yep.
They're
That's so true.
really likes science, but all their friends are like, "Oh, school is stupid." But they're like, "I kind of really like school, but I guess I'll act like I don't." So there's a lot of interesting ways we might not feel safe expressing in today's day and age.
Yeah, so true. And what I find is that in losing that safety, then you maybe even lose hope in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things. So there's a culmination of when somebody comes in to see me, and I am virtual now. That has only been a transition in the past few months. So I've been in a brick and mortar practice for 20 years or something like that I've been seeing patients walk in off the street by appointment and taking care of them hands-on. And I do specialize in brain disorders. So I'm kind of a brain optimization expert. So that ends up with people with having a lot of what we would call mental health or mental illness issues or symptoms. And so it doesn't need to me be classified as a disease or a disorder or have a name behind it. But the culmination of what people are experiencing, that's in how can the brain and structure and function play in that is what I specialize in and have been doing for a really long time. And it really, has never stopped to cease to amaze me the level of pain, despair, and hopelessness that people are walking around with inside their hearts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as I sit with them in front of me, now I do it virtually, they're beating themselves up. They're telling me all the ways that they are broken, that they are not good, that they can't function. And they're really, they're selling the story. They're selling me and trying to convince me that they're hopeless and they cannot be helped because they've seen 17 other people and they've been trying this and doing that, right? There's just something inherently wrong with them. And some of them have already tried to commit suicide. Some are coming to me post-hospital. Some are right there considering it. I've had a gun and things walk right into my office. Like I'm on the verge of maybe going to go home and do this, right? And we have had to do some 911 emergency situations. I'm actually typically in awe and in such reverence to them because what I know that they've been through, when they start telling me and I get the level of trauma and abuse and pain, and they're still here, they're sitting across from me with the capability, the power, the strength. They just don't know how to flip that into purpose yet.
Yes.
It's just a switch. And I'm often that person that's just there to help show them, can I put your finger on the switch? Sometimes they can't even see it and they don't even have the strength to lift their hand. Right. So like once we get there and I'm like, I'm just building them up. Can you flip your switch now? And then boom, that might take a few visits. That might take a few months. That might even take a couple years sometimes because it's not just their thought patterns that are doing this. Thought patterns, the things, the trauma, the stories, the thought patterns, what they're saying, the words they choose. This is really a connection of neural pathways that have been grown and built together. There's some common phrases in my industry, neurons that fire together, wire together.
Okay. Help the listeners understand, but what do you mean by neurons that fire together, wire together, so that they understand what that means?
Okay. So, right, you have trillions and trillions of cells in your brain. And your brain is it's a 3 million year old biomagnetic electrical computer that sits in an ocean of water and somehow doesn't short circuit. Every biomedical engineer on Earth is trying to make a computer like the human brain. And we cannot. We can't fathom what it's doing. So in all the computers and all the books we have on neurology and the human brain, we're not even close to really understanding what it's doing. But basically taking it down to basic anatomy, which is really not doing it justice. A brain cell is called a neuron, right? So there's trillions of them inside this computer that runs on electricity and magnetism and fluid. And it's charging off all the time. They work together in large groups or clusters called networks, basically. So you have networks that help you stay calm, and you have networks that help you focus. You have networks that make you happy, and you have networks that make you be really emotional and be really scared. And that's a good thing. You should be able to sense danger and you should have a response. You should be able to fall in love. Whatever you practice the most of, you become. So what are you practicing? That's a statement I say to my patients, the statement I say to my son. You become what you practice. So be careful what you're practicing.
Right.
Practice complaining, you will be really good at it.
Yes.
You practice gratitude, you'll get really good at it. If you practice patience, you become good at being patient.
Yes.
Practice meditation, you get good at it. You practice abundance, money management, I don't care what it is.
Manifestation.
Whatever you continue to do, how it works. So what I'm saying is things that fire together, that you're making active, that you practice, you keep doing that, they're going to hardwire themselves together and become a strong functional network and make it very easy for that to happen. So if you distract yourself all the time with 4 screens open and 18 texts going and 3 cell phones and the radio on while the TV's going, you are doing a really good job at creating a brain that cannot stay focused for more than 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Then you walk into a doctor's office. Oh, you have attention deficit. Here's a pill.
Mm-hmm.
Or did you just build that into your neurology? And can I unbuild it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or did trauma, because a lot of times I see trauma building that, like the trauma happens, kicks that off, and then the
Right.
other stuff is the survival mechanism
Yeah.
that looks like ADHD.
Yeah.
It looks like
Well, there's 100 neurological orders that look just like ADHD.
Mm.
At least 100 things, at least, that look just like ADHD. The issue is, and what I do in my practice, what I've been doing, again, I'm doing it a little differently now. I'm consulting now for a lot of practices. How can you diagnose or treat a brain disorder, in my opinion, unless you take an image of the brain?
Yes.
So I do brain imaging, and there's a large movement, and it's not huge, but it's getting big enough where people are coming along in the psychiatric field and saying, wait a minute, you know, we have to create a whole new field called neuropsychiatry to actually study the brain.
Right. Yeah.
You would think that wouldn't be like rocket science, that they shouldn't you been studying we thought you guys studied the brain. Nope. Turns out they don't at all. They don't study the brain at all. They really don't understand neurotransmitters. They don't look at the brain. It's the only field that is allowed to prescribe a bunch of drugs without ever taking any tests or images. That's the only one. Nobody else, if you went to an endocrinologist, a hormone specialist, would start prescribing you a bunch of hormones without running labs. You know, no surgeon could cut you open until they started doing imaging and said it was worth it. So I'm into looking at the brain and looking at its structure and looking at its function and helping you determine. So I'll just give you kind of anecdotally, and we did kind of track it, as far as just ADHD, diagnosed cases that would walk into my practice looking for us to help reverse that, teach the brain how to stop having attention issues and how to focus itself, because it can be taught anything. 60% of them weren't even ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
So total misdiagnosis, not the right thing. Out of those, anxiety was typically the big one. Auditory processing disorders was another one. Again, you treat auditory processing completely differently than you treat attention deficit. And so, but anxiety looks just like attention deficit in a child.
Yeah. Yep. Sure does.
Yeah. And if you give an attention deficit medication to an anxious child, talk about a bad situation. It's not pretty to take a freaked out little brain and put a stimulant on it.
Good point.
That makes sense?
Yes, absolutely.
You know, we do imaging and we look at it, help figure out what's really the best thing. And it's kind of as simple as waking up parts of the brain that are kind of underactive and calming down parts that are overactive. And I use a lot of fancy therapies and brain devices and techniques, and people can go find other practitioners that do similar things. But I also do a lot of functional medicine around that, because it can be overactive from different biochemical or hormonal processes, right? You can have attention deficit issues from a low functioning thyroid. And again, that's not a neurofeedback answer. That's either just a medication or hormone support or functional medicine discovery and diet changes. You know, there's a lot of easy ways to get your brain fog gone. But why is your brain foggy? Why are you struggling? That's the question. Because it can be as simple as, you know, some nutrient depletion, or it could be MS, and we should find out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It could also be what I notice a lot, dehydration. Like people don't even look at that.
Basic.
Basic. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah. I tell people that we have foundations. People are really, they'll come in, they'll want to spend a lot of money and do all these tests. I'm kind of really conservative on that. I go over the basics. I'm like, so they'll tell me the story, the this and that, and I'll go through and I'm thinking, so your 10-year-old sleeps 7 hours a day only, is up till midnight doing 5 hours of homework in this high stress school that's really demanding on grades. And are we sure this is even attention deficit, or is this just sleep deprivation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any child, and then they're eating Skittles and sugar and all this other junk for me.
And dehydrated.
Yeah. So the brain, you know, is, again, it's a liquid medium. Your body's a liquid medium. Dehydration is a huge one. I don't think people eat enough basic nutrients. The brain is fat.
Yes.
It's saturated fat and cholesterol. It's an animal. We're an animal brain. Okay. We're not a plant brain. And so there's something that I'm going to say, like, people need to, especially women, they need to start eating more protein with more fat. You protect your brain, and they need to stop being so concerned about cholesterol.
Yeah.
As a brain optimization expert, I'll tell you that's really a big deal. And right now, in our country, we have the three top chronic diseases what people are going through, I think because they're starving their brains. Their brains are in a chronic stress state just from life, just from too many bills and fighting and traffic and things that we create stress. The brain doesn't know the difference between a lion is about to kill you and your worry over can you fit in, did you lose enough weight, or, is your kid going to get into an Ivy League school? I mean, some people go through some really outrageous stress over some things that are really benign.
Yep. Now I'm going to have you go back just a little bit because I want to make sure we get this. Tell me the three.
So the three top chronic illnesses in the United States right now. This is not causes of death. It's chronic illnesses, cardiovascular disease, mental illness, diabetes.
Got it.
Those are the biggest epidemics. And there's a war between cardiovascular recommendations and neurological health recommendations. So there's a lot of debate between the traditional and functional neurologists and health coaches about, I'm saying everybody needs to stop being concerned about it at all. Everyone's trying to lower their cholesterol and they're ruining their brains, making themselves more anxious and depressed and giving themselves more risk for dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's by doing so.
Yes, I see where you're going. I get that. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're all in that low fat movement. Like back 25 years ago, it was all about low fat, counting all of that. And then it just led to a nation of anxious, depressed women, especially with thyroid disorders, because eating 20 grams of fat a day is a way to basically devastate yourself.
Wow. Yeah.
My diet now is roughly, I don't know, probably somewhere between 70 and 85% fat in a day. Most of my calories are coming from fat.
Yeah. And that's awesome because, the society, that's one of our running enemies. I'm always talking about society, but society has put this thing out there. I guess it started maybe around the 80s where it's like low fat this and low fat that.
Yeah.
Not even paying attention to sugar because a lot of times the low fat things were high in sugar, but it was this idea that fat makes you fat. Yeah. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
And
it was a great theory. It was a great theory. You know what I mean? Just like the theory that cholesterol causes cardiovascular disease. It does not. We're clear on that now. The it's all been studied. We're like, oops. So instead of medicine saying, we made a big mistake, we're going to have to change our recommendations, they usually just double down. But the studies are clear. Cholesterol has nothing to do with saturated fat. In fact, lowering it, that's what you do. It wasn't a bad idea. It was like, okay, well, it sounds right. Turns out not at all. Because they added sugar. The thing that raises your cholesterol the most is sugar. The thing that makes you feel the most is sugar.
Yep.
Because it's penetrating your brain in such a way and it's ruining our hormonal and biochemical communication, right? And I know I'm talking kind of a little all over the place, but let me backtrack it, right? Talking about anxiety, depression, brain disorder. Your brain, I talked about it being an ocean. It's like a river. And your body, your mood, your emotions, your stability can be a really nice, stable river going down the stream. You can be laying in the raft really comfortably, riding along that stream. It's beautiful. The sun is out and you're not fighting anything. You're going with the current. And so it's pretty easy. That's a brain and a body that has all the nutrients it needs. And it has a kind of a symphony. It's organized. It has good communication. It has good signaling. Everything makes sense. It's very congruent with itself. So it's not hard for that person who's done certain behaviors and taken certain actions to balance their body and brain chemistry to say positive mantras. It's not that hard for them to change their mindset. It's not very hard for them to envision hope. It's not hard to feel good because they feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you got a river coming down, it's more like a rapids where you'd be doing some whitewater rafting. It's a little bit rougher. And you're trying to paddle up against it. It's a lot harder with a brain that is like that, where the neurotransmitters and the hormones and the structure are very chaotic. They're very disorganized. They don't have harmony. They don't have any symphony. Their communication is not good. They're starving. They're freaked out. They're panicking. And you're trying to go against that current. Good luck with just saying some, mantras. Good luck with just trying to, well, can't you just be grateful? That's what people will say to them. And they're going, I'm barely making it. I'm drowning. I'm exhausted. I feel like I'm going to die. If I stop kicking, I'm going under and I'm never coming out. I think the worst thing you can say to them is, well, can't you just, and I'm like, no. So my job is to come in and change all of that structural communication, biochemistry, neurotransmitters. And it's suddenly the whole situation changes and they're going along with the stream of the current, like, oh, okay. And now they're in a position they can learn. It's like, so I'm supposed to write down goals. Yeah. Oh, okay. I can do that. And now they're ready to actually change their life. But there really is a true physiological basis of anxiety and depression and tension. And that's why it's so easy to go into that despair and that hope. But typically it's a whole lot easier to fix than anybody is telling anybody. Not that hard.
Yeah, absolutely. That's some of the work that I do with brain-based hypnotherapy. A lot of times, if people do heal in 1 or 2 sessions, they just can't even fathom it and they want to keep coming just because. I have a virtual business, but I do see patients in office, and sometimes they want to just keep coming because it's just like, I can't fathom that I'm healed, even though I'm not doing the things I used to do. I just, one, they're kind of attached to the story a little bit, but also two, it's just like, that can't be right. Like maybe I should just keep coming just in case.
Well, and actually it could just be wanting to come because, and having more sessions because feeling good makes you want to feel more good. I want to feel gooder or whatever. Like good, I want gooder and gooder and gooder and more and better and let's go, right? It's why, exercise and meditation and chanting or in whatever becomes addictive, so people say. Well, like if you start seeing a chiropractor, do you have to keep going forever? Well, I don't want to start going to chiropractors because then I got to go for life. I don't want to start exercise because then I got to keep doing it. Or I don't want to start meditating because then I got to keep doing it. I don't want to start breathing because then I got to keep breathing. You sound ridiculous. How dumb I sounded. You kind of go, so you don't want to start feeling good because damn, you'll have to put some effort in to continue to feel good. Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of like that when people talk about meditation with me and they're like, oh, but I can't stop my brain from thinking. I'm like, why are you trying to stop?
That's not the point.
No.
That's why you take a class. That's why I say, here's the thing. It's okay. It's actually, this is what I want people to stop doing, is stop overthinking and making things much harder than they need to be. Women in particular make things much harder than they actually are.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm going to go back to your point, dehydrating water and sleep. They want to look at all these little tiny details instead of, well, can we just talk about these 5 big things first? And I'm like, they want to know, what supplement, do I need B6? Or I heard if it's B12, or what about, have you heard about glutathione? Oh my God. Can we talk about the fact that you eat fast food 2 times a day and you don't sleep at night? I mean, a supplement isn't going to outdo what you're doing to yourself all day long. Sorry. You can't just take ginkgo and think, my brain is protected. Nope, sorry. You are not going to escape the accumulation of your behaviors.
Yes. So let's shift gears. There's 2 things I want to make sure we talk about. One is, of course, some solutions, some tips. So we'll do that last. But 2 is your business has shifted some because you've linked to a couple times that science is not really embracing this, but you have begun to teach this to other practitioners. Am I right?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of practices doing stuff similar to me and have a unique spin and blend of adding a lot of functional medicine into a lot of neurofeedback practices. And a lot of doctors have been requesting my help, and I've been helping people for a very long time in my spare time without actually charging anybody for it. And some great people came along and said, we're going to have to talk about your relationship with your time and your money.
Yeah, that sounds like some financial therapy going on.
Yeah. And said, Dr. Rimka, that's not being real smart. You're really tired and you're working a lot. People typically get better when they pay for things anyway. You're in bed, you'll listen, it's that kind of thing. So a few things, my practices help a lot of other practices, doctors better at what they're doing, teaching some of the things I know, because it's a wide variety of just very bizarre range, kind of And what the big word right now, which I don't like, are biohackers, right? It's
Oh,
kind of
okay.
a annoying phrase. That I'm trained in orthomolecular psychiatry, small section of medicine that focuses on mental health and autism. It's just been kind of my shtick because this is the stuff that's plagued my family. So I'm pretty intense, passionate, and obsessed with it because this is for my own people. So it just kind of became, I had to get good at it because it's my purpose. If you can't take what happened in your life and do something with it, I don't know. That's what I know how to do. And I know how to help other people do it. So part of my practice is that helping them, getting the word out and consulting. But I still have clients, and I'm just doing all that functional medicine virtual, but I'm helping individuals, practices, and other doctors go virtual because the practice is starting to wear people out. And actually, believe it or not, doctors are one of the highest rising group of people that are having such burnout that anxiety, depression, and suicide rates among doctors is becoming extremely high. Ever since the medical records has gone digital, the amount of data entry paperwork is breaking them down. I just read about it today.
Mm.
It's a concern because you're having people leave the field in droves because it's not worth it to them anymore. I just met with one last week, a functional medicine physician. I'm sorry, she wasn't functional medicine. She's coming to me because she wants to learn it. And she left because she discovered meditation and it changed her life. And now she runs a meditation center out of her home.
Wow.
That she had a love and a passion in wanting to take care of people, and the parameters upon which we have created it to be, they're not maintaining it anymore.
Yeah, I'm right there with her. That was a decision I made last year, was not to become a clinical therapist. I worked in a hospital for a little while, and just the amount, like you mentioned, the
Yeah.
amount of paperwork was just overwhelming, and some of it repeating. And I would even say to the patient sometimes, like, I know we already did this, so bear with me. Like, that was the conversation I
Yeah.
would have to have.
Yeah.
And then later, a year or two later, I decided I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
So hypnotherapy allows me to serve
Mhm.
rather than spend time with my patient's paperwork. I can spend time with my patients.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's why I can spend 1 to 3 hours with you if I want to.
Yep.
There is no insurance company dictating to me. It's how much time you need, you can buy it. Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Credit card, I got time. Learning to kind of replicate myself, duplicate myself. So I'm doing a lot of other things. Again, still taking care of people virtually, working on webinars, teaching classes. I'm speaking a lot. I get interviewed a lot. That way the information can get out there. I'm writing a book. And it wasn't really a market that I thought, but it makes total sense because I'm kind of writing it as a manual to my 13-year-old son. So
Mm.
my gift to him, if something ever happens to me, this is how you're going to protect your brain and you're going to protect your body and have the most optimal life, and some basic steps that I'm going to cover in this book. So it should be done in a few months, and that'll be out on Amazon. And I've got a few amazing products that I believe in, that I use, that I'm using, supporting, and help people build businesses around that. But, really interesting journey. And, part of why I had to do it, to tell the truth, is because my own son is very, very sick, and I had to make some radical decisions and
Mhm.
really quickly to take care of him. And so, sometimes you got to go, the thing you thought you loved or was that important really isn't anymore. And how can I be elastic? How can I be flexible? How can I take one concept and move it into something? I always explain to patients on the first visit, everybody thinks strength is oak tree, this big, gigantic, strong thing. But when a hurricane comes in, let's say, because nothing's stronger than this on water, down in, say, New Orleans when Katrina hit, the big oak trees and the big, strong buildings, they got ripped down. But the bamboo or the willow, something soft that bent, that was flexible, that could go all the way, it bounced right back up.
Mm.
True strength is in flexibility. And I mean in the physical body, in the psyche, in the mental realm, psychological realm. We're looking for physical flexibility, psychological flexibility, emotional flexibility. And when you have that, it's actually stability, right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's what I really strive for. Like, I'm going to make you bigger, better, faster, stronger because I'm making you more flexible.
Mm.
One thing about the human brain is we like to be efficient. And so it hardwires things into be really efficient. The downside to that is it can be a little bit rigid. So we have to do things to continue to make it flexible. meditation, hypnotherapy, any type of experiential work, and just learning something new, neurofeedback, the functional medicine stuff I do, breath work. There's a million ways you can make yourself flexible in a real structural and physiological way. I have many ways that I do it in my practice. You have ways you do it in your practice. They all work. That's what I want everybody to know. Everything really works. If it's out there, you guys, if people have been practicing it for a while, it all works.
Mm-hmm.
Finding the right thing at the right time in the right place for you.
Yeah. People ask me that all the time because so I do brain-based hypnotherapy, but the basis of my practice, I want to make sure that physical activity, stress management, nutrition, and sleep. So I want to make sure you have all of those in place. And that's the number one. First, we got to talk about that. And when
That's the
that
foundation of the house. It's the foundation. You can't talk about the bathroom on the third story if the foundation is falling apart. And that's what I was saying. People want to talk about all these details. I'm like, well, that's real fancy. I can make myself look really smart by running all these little labs on you. And, ooh, look, you're this level. Who gives a crap? Because, your basic foundation is ridiculous. You can't actually have 6 lattes a day and a protein bar and you think you're healthy. Oh no, this is a bad, sometimes it's so basic. It's so basic what I have to do with people. And then the results are so big, they can't believe it because your body is built. Your body, your brain, your mind, your psyche is built to be strong, vibrant, harmonious, and powerful.
Yes.
It's designed to be that way. Get out of its way.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to slow down a couple of things because you talk really fast and you give a lot of information, but in one breath, you give us so much information. So you skated over a couple of things that I want to touch on. First of all, you downplayed the work that you are doing with other practitioners. And I want to go back to that because, of course, we're humble people, so we won't give ourselves credit. But I've been to enough doctors, and I know my listeners have been to enough doctors that have kept them perpetually ill, have not helped them with healing, but has said, here, take this pill. And what you're teaching is skill over pill, like mindset over pill.
Yeah.
Like, yes, maybe a pill is what you need, but first, let's take a look at all these other things. And if you're talking to patients about that and then teaching other doctors to have those conversations, we can become a healthier, not just America, but world, because people are modeling Americans. And if we do something, then the rest of the world wants to do it. But these conversations that you're having with other doctors and this training that you're doing with other doctors, helping them build their virtual or, even brick and mortar businesses, but have it be more about really looking at the brain, testing for that rather than, which medication do I write for you? And then I also want to make sure the listeners heard you say one very important thing that we both are passionate about, and that is men's health. I see so many men who have not been allowed to feel. And when that happens, that gets lodged in your body somewhere, right? A lot of times I see it in the belly, in their gut, because they're losing their power because they're not allowed to feel, because only one emotion, and that's anger, maybe two, because they can be lustful and they can be angry. Those are the only two that they're allowed to feel. And we build our sons, we're like, oh, he's gonna be a ladies' man, we build him up to be that, right? Or we're like, don't you cry, be a man, or whatever we tell them. So men's health is super important, and that's great work that you're doing, because if we don't take care of the men the way they need to be taken care of, then we really can't build the way we want to build, because they are part of that foundation. I mean, we talk about women's health a lot because women, yes, we're nurturing the men and we're raising the babies, but men's health is just as important. Clearly, men don't even go to the doctor as much as women do. Am I right?
Right. They don't. And for me, it's, there's a lot you just said there too. And, we can use some of the big trigger words like toxic masculinity that people don't understand. I'm going to talk about those things in my book. And that's exactly what it is. It's, again, I'm a woman that's raising a boy to be a man. I had to really look at that and understand that. And there's a lot that goes into a single mom raising a boy to be a man, the kind of man I want him to be, and I want him to represent in the world, and the kind of man that He's got to understand one day you are actually going to be bigger and stronger than me. It's a fact. I'm bigger and stronger than he is. And I'm going to be, if he was a girl, that might not happen. But he's physiologically different than me. There is a shift that happens from the hormones. And I need him to understand with that, there's going to be some things he's responsible for, and he's going to have to take care of it, because it's in my best interest to have very balanced, very orderly, very organized, very healthy men's brains walking around on this earth.
Yes.
There's nothing kind of more of a threat to me than an imbalanced, chaotic, deranged male brain on a lot of testosterone.
Yes, I'm so with you. Yes.
So it's in my best interest to help them.
Absolutely. We're so divided, not understanding that we need each other.
Yeah. It is for us. The two of us are going against the grain because it is the rise of the feminine spirit right now. Absolutely. This is the rise of the woman. I am down with all that. I'm not going to tell the story about how the book came along, but I was at a functional medicine seminar in Utah. And just through all of it, everybody thought I should be writing on mental health, on schizophrenics, on bipolar, on autism, on some, and it just had not been, it felt like a job to do that. It's a have to. And this was a very different moment. And it just made perfect sense that this is the angle I'm going to go with it, because, I know what it's like to be a woman. I can teach women and help their health, all that kind of stuff. But there's also this acknowledgement at the same, like, I need you to man up. I need you to be, who you really are. And by that, that's not some macho machismo thing. And I don't want my son to think of it that way. And it's because we make them suppress these emotions and they aren't allowed to have the breadth of who they really are. And often they're with women who don't allow them to be who they really are, whether that was from their mother, then their wives and everything else. That comes out then as rage, right? So I think it's been an interesting thing where men and women and what they're going through with our own acknowledgement of my own divine feminine and my own divine masculine, right? I am both of those things. And I have this blend of how I'm, doing it. We're on a podcast, right? So no one can see me, but you can see me. And I didn't even think about this, but this mala you see me wearing is amethyst and tiger eye with a Maasai warrior. So I have a very strong feminine heart chakra and I have the masculine. This was designed to balance and custom made for me with a Maasai warrior breed for me to balance my feminine and my masculine, like to be a warrior with nonviolence. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's what that is. When we really are, we're strong. Everybody has this massive warrior within them, whether they're a warrior woman or a warrior man, that can come to creation and protection and strong, able to do what we can do really well. I have to tell you, but we are different.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean bad.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
We're different. And that doesn't mean because I'm better at these things that something's wrong with you. And you're better at things. Right? That's great. Why can't we work it all together?
Totally agree. So before we talk about our tips, start, stop, and continue, what would you say is the best health advice you've ever received, or the advice you wish somebody would have told you?
I'm going to say my best health advice, and it might be a little controversial. I was a vegetarian for 14 years, 12 of those vegan. And I was told 7 to 10 times by friends, all doctors. Some of them were my physicians, some were PhDs, some were geneticists, some were chiropractors, to stop being a vegetarian. And it took me 4 years and almost dying. And I stopped. And that was the best health advice I've ever been given. I am actually so full blown the other way 14 years later, that how much meat I eat and understanding the brain, becoming a brain optimization expert forced me to understand you can't have an optimized brain without eating animal protein and a lot of fat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the second best was meditation.
Ah, wow. Yeah. It sounds like both of us have the same. That's actually mine too. I was vegetarian for 11 years. And then one day, and I didn't actually get advice, but maybe I did, and I just wasn't listening to it. But one day, because I'm kind of like you and don't tell me what to do, I just decided I think I need to start eating meat again. And then I did the blood type. I started reading the blood type diet book and
Mhm.
found what worked for my body. And I was like, oh my God, I just feel so much better. So I know instantly if something is for me or not. Like I don't even have to look at the app anymore. My body just tells me. But that was a shift that I was so glad I made too. And
Yeah.
meditation changed my life as well. Made me a nicer person actually, because I was
Yeah.
frustrated a
It's
lot.
a dirty secret among vegetarians because you don't want it to be true. We don't want it to be true. I mean,
I
we
know. I
it's
still
we
can't
what
even believe it.
yeah. It's a
They
recipe. It's a recipe for brain degradation, anxiety, and depression.
Yeah, it is.
And I have patients, they come, that's one of their things. They're depressed. And I even have friends, they say, yeah, I don't want to come see you though, because I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me I need to eat meat and I don't want to hear that. I'm like, well, keep working on all that depressive thinking because your brain is starving. That's how it is.
Yep. Now, I don't know how to fit this in, but I do know that you've been working with a product that has been doing remarkable things. So
Hmm.
I usually have really good segues, but not right now.
Right.
So I don't want us to wrap up before we talk at least a little bit, and I can put more information in the show notes
Okay.
about this product that has been really helping people.
Sure.
Add that in.
Yeah. So, and again, it's part of what I do to restore people's health is I use a variety of not only techniques using all kinds of devices and therapies in the practice. We also use a lot of diet and nutrient therapy. So I do provide tremendous amounts of supplements, and that can be really hard for people to stay compliant. They don't understand if they're used to like, I'm sick, I get an antibiotic, I have an infection, I take this. I have a sleep problem, I just take a benzo. They don't really understand the idea of correcting something at the cause. And that's going to take us a few months, and it might take a whole lot of supplements to really, really figure something out. I keep trying to make it easier and to make it cheaper for people. That's what I'm always trying to do, right? Because at the end of the day, I feel like I can get anyone better. Anybody that walks into my office, Spirit put them in there for a reason. Everybody calls me up. I have to know Spirit wouldn't put something in front of me that I'm not designed to see. There is no mistake. There's no coincidence. Everything is synchronicity. So I no longer have any fear around what I might not know what that is. I'm like, what?
Mhm.
I've seen this before. This is something, but I know Grace has put that before me and they're supposed to be there. And I'm the one that's supposed to be helping them. Done and done. Right. So I may not have the answer in the moment, but it will come to me. It will be channeled through at some point. Right.
Yes.
I keep trying to make it easier and easier because if I can keep anybody compliant, they'll get better.
Yes.
But compliance is key. You got to do what we say, right?
Yep.
That's a tough one. So I
Which is
have
part of the reason why I do like working with men because they don't
they're
usually
so
question.
much more compliant. Yeah, it's so easy. The book, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
They're so much faster because they don't fight with you as much.
Yep. Yep.
Argue. I can't understand it. Done and
Me
done.
either.
Whatever you say to do, doc, I'll do it. That's all they say. I don't need to know why. Just tell me what to do. Done and done.
Yep.
Whatever you need, I'm on it.
I know. I love it. I love
Oh
it.
my God, this is the best ever. I'm like, can you tell that to your wife? That'd be great. Because she wants to talk about all this other stuff that has nothing to do with what I just said. And you're what I'm saying. Women get in their own way and stop their healing all their time.
Yes, for those
Stop
reasons that you
it.
said, overcomplicating it, overthinking.
Oh my God, overthinking, perfectionism, it's unbelievable.
Yep.
And then resistance and maybe not thinking they can trust somebody. I think, maybe they've just had bad experiences. But so I have found something that to me is across the board helping all of my adult patients in a way I've never seen something do as far as a supplement that I recommend. So I am doing one thing in particular that is blowing my mind, blowing results because it gives all this, it's brain optimization, it's healing the brain, anti-aging the brain, it's hormone optimization, it's making you have the kind of hormone levels back in your 20s. So things that are happening from aging and libido and go away, cognitive improvement, memory, attention, concentration are all completely improving. People's sleep's improving, muscle definition, body fat loss. I'm on it. Energy, mood stabilization, a sense of hope again, a sense of well-being. It's doing it so fast. It basically is about 7 to 10 products in one that people, it's a gel that they rub and it goes into their veins. It has blown my mind. I can't believe one little thing that people can do just every day from the comfort of their home, I can get the same results. This did what I normally takes me 3 months and like $7,000 to do. They got that for $150. I can't even understand this right now.
Wow.
And
Yes.
that's what's been going on for months and months and months. And so I'm been so impressed. I'm really, really speaking a lot about it and helping a lot of practices get it in there so they can get it to their patients. I've been super, super happy with it. And I'm
Awesome.
a lot of other stuff and replacing, so they still have a handful. This isn't the only thing, but I could stop a whole lot of things to balance their hormones, balance their brain performance, and help them lose weight. That belly fat you talked about, that's a stress response from cortisol.
Yep.
So this will handle that too. So bone density as people age, it does it all. It's the master hormone. So doing about it or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was perfect. And so, guys, what I'll have you do is I'm going to put a bunch of information that we talked about in the show notes. So go there. What it comes specifically to what Dr. Stephanie is talking about, this particular, I guess we'll call it a supplement. Is that what we call it?
Yeah, it's a supplement.
Yeah. So this particular supplement, you're going to go to KeneCorder.com/Rimka, and I will link to any information she wants you to have there. There'll be other links in the show notes as well, but I just wanted you to have that one just in case anybody's super curious and wants to know more now, because maybe you are losing hope and maybe you feel like you tried everything. But I will tell you, you have not tried everything, because I know that there were things that we talked about today, including this supplement, that you haven't tried. And I'm asking you, encouraging you, urging you to try something different. So let's go into our start, stop, and continue. So since we're talking about doing something different, how about we go with start first? I know you mentioned eating more fat. You also mentioned flexibility. Start being more flexible, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And you mentioned something about paying for health. Like health, a lot of times people call and they want to say like, oh, or do you take insurance? And I go, no. And then they're like, okay, I'll call you back. Right. But what I'm doing works. And maybe the person who takes insurance may not be able to help you heal. So be willing to go outside of your insurance. Maybe you have to pay for healing, especially if it's from a practitioner that knows how to get to the root cause and not just give you, Band-Aids. So that's start. Did I leave anything out?
Start eating 30 grams of animal protein 3 times a day.
Okay, got it.
That's easier because they don't understand what that means. Eat more.
Yeah,
It's like, go out and have cheesecake. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
I want the fat that's in the protein. I really want you to eat protein. So I eat steak 2-3 times a day. All right. So what I'm saying, and I'm lean and I don't actually exercise at all. A lot more muscle mass than a lot of people who go to the gym. I don't need gym actually because I'm smart with what I do. So I would start eating protein 30 grams at least twice a day. Okay. If it's a guy, 50 grams, somewhere between 30 and 50 grams. That's what I would start. I would also start meditation.
Yes.
Done and done. I think if you're not doing that, you need to go start and then come back.
Okay. I love it. Now, stop. You talked about overthinking. So stop overthinking and overcomplicating this whole thing. You just made a couple of things really simple.
Yeah. Stop the Googling interwebs of the WebMD or whatever. I heard that stop it. Stop trying to become functional medicine physician. That's what you need to stop doing.
Yes.
Stop.
Preach that one.
Like if I have one more person that my thyroid, do you have a lab? Well, no, but why are you taking L-tyrosine? Because you read it on the interwebs. Okay. I don't know what to do with that. I'm going to run some labs.
Yeah.
Then we're going to see what's going on.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to do a proper history and exam, and we're going to do the way we should do it instead of, I have a rash. It must be this. No, please stop.
Yes. So to go right along with our start, we'll also say stop being a vegetarian.
I would say stop being a vegetarian.
Yep. So continue is sort of personal, I guess. Whatever each person is doing, like maybe there's some things we talked about today that you're already doing well. Keep doing those things. Yeah. Is there anything continue-wise that you feel like you want to
continue trying new things? I think that's
that's a good one.
That's what, continue growing, trying new things, continue learning, continue reading. Like I know we're listening, but if you, I would start reading if you're not. Books, actually, So what I tell people to do, kind of like I want them to chase the butterfly. I want you just to follow your excitement. So continue following your excitement, right?
Yeah.
Continue following the excitement. Like a 3-year-old will just, when you watch them play and they just go from thing to thing to thing to thing, and people think that's not an attention problem. That's following your excitement. And if following your excitement is like drawing for 15 minutes, you think, well, this is so stupid. I should be doing this. I should be on balance. No, stop it. Continue like a child to follow your excitement. Because believe it or not, if you continue to do that, you will flex that excitement, joy, energy, aura, muscle, whatever you want to say. And at some point, you actually will find it exciting to fold the laundry. You're like, actually, I really want to fold the laundry. And then when you fold the laundry, you'll be doing it with excitement and a sense of accomplishment and purpose instead of resentment and fatigue and anger. You see, does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
The whole thing on that. But yeah, continue to practice those moments of excitement and joy. Listen to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's signal from your higher self. That's what you should be doing. That is your purpose.
Yes.
So
and
if you enjoy journaling, do it, right? If you enjoy singing, do it. If you enjoy, like, I don't know, I like coloring. Well, then color. I know you think you might be 50 years old. Like, well, this is for a child. And your point would be what? Just follow your, and eventually, believe it or not, you're not going to lose your house and be homeless and lose your job because you aren't just going to be doing that all the time. But it will happen that it does open up prosperity in every other part of your life.
Yep, it sure does. And that actually reminds me of one thing we can stop doing, and that's complaining. You will stop complaining. If you're continuing to follow your joy, continuing to follow what excites you, it will create the space for you to stop complaining. So I'm going to add that because a lot of times we are complaining about our health rather than finding that hope, rather than healing. We're doing a good job of complaining about it rather than doing something about it. So I'm going to add that one.
Perfect.
And that kind of wraps it up for today.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stephanie. And thank you guys for listening. I'm so glad we had this conversation. Stay tuned for our 5-minute activation. It's time for 5-minute activation, a quick financial therapy session to get you activated and on your way to increasing the love and money in your marriage. So can I get 5 minutes of your time? Just 5 minutes for a financial therapy activation.
Hey there. Today, I want to talk to you about being curious. Now, that doesn't sound like it has anything to do with financial therapy, right? But it does. Being curious is a prosperity principle that when you embrace it, it changes your life. It changes your relationships. It changes your financial plan. Being curious is, well, you know how I say you got to fall in love with the plan, but don't get attached? So this being curious is the next step. How do you not get attached to your plan if you're in love with it, right? Well, if you are curious to see how it all plays out, then you enjoy the process more. Now, let me explain something. When I say don't get attached, I really mean the steps in between. So falling in love with the plan means the destination. I would like to be a New York Times bestselling author, as you know, as I've said many times before. Now, how I get there, I don't have to get attached to that idea. I don't have to say, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author of this particular book, right? That would be getting attached. If I just let that out into the universe and then see where it goes and just be curious to see how this dream, this idea, this plan will unfold, I can enjoy the process more because it may not be the book that I'm thinking will be the New York Times bestseller. It may be a totally different book. Does that make sense? I bring this up because I run into a lot of patients and clients who get so frustrated and stressed about the plan. They fall in love with it. Yeah, they get that part, but then they get so attached that they forget to be curious. And they start saying things like, well, I've tried everything and, it's always going to be this way. And I don't see this ever changing and I don't know what to do next. And so, when you get in that mind frame, you begin to make the process unenjoyable. And part of the way you enjoy the process is to be curious, to just say, I wonder what will happen next, or I wonder how this will play out, or I can't wait to see, or wouldn't it be nice if? So statements like that are curiosity statements. So I encourage you to be curious instead of saying, I've tried everything or we've tried everything. Be curious to see what else is out there, what new program or course or retreat you can experience. Be curious instead of predicting the future. Like, I already know what she's going to do or he's going to say. Just be curious to see what your partner does or says or how they show up in the world. Be curious to see what it will feel like if you got past the block that you have in your life. What if you saved more than you ever saved before? Be curious to see what that'll be like. Have you ever said, yeah, I'll just save this money and then something will happen and it'll get taken away? Well, just say, I'd be curious to see just how much I can save past $5,000 I've saved before, or whatever the number is. Instead of being attached to the past, like saying, oh, it's always been this way, say, I wonder what it'd be like if things were a little different than they've been in the past. I wonder what I'd be like if I didn't spend any money. I wonder what I'd do on a no money day, a day when I didn't spend any money, not a dollar, not even a penny. What would that be like? Just be curious. Be curious instead of giving up. Keep going. Your dream, your goal, your promise to yourself is just a couple steps away. It just happens. And as it's happening, you can enjoy the process by being curious. I'm curious as to what the next step will be. Just see the next step. You don't have to see the destination. Just be able to see the next step and be curious about that. So that's our 5-minute activation for today. If you need more, if you have questions, go ahead and DM me on Instagram. Go to connectcorner.com/Instagram and send me a DM. I'd love to hear from you. All right, do me a favor. Have a prosperous week. I'll see you sooner.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you want more love and money conversations, subscribe to this podcast. Also, tell your friends about us. I'll see you next episode. But in the meantime, head on over to connectcorner.com for more tips, tools, and resources. And go ahead and leave us a comment if you like. We'd love to hear from you. This show is not to replace professional counsel. The best advice comes from a professional you know. The topics discussed in this podcast are general in nature and are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We encourage you to meet with a professional to discuss your specific situation, whether financial or therapeutic. That's all for now. I'll see you sooner. Remember, no matter what anybody ever tells you, you can have wealth in all of its forms. Believe it, and you will soon see it.